The future offers hope for people living with Fragile X syndrome. Collaborations between the Fragile X community and other disability organizations help to provide understanding and advancement of research to bring effective treatments to families. FRAXA's Dr. Mike talks with Autism Science Foundation's Allison Singer about the importance of their collaboration as we look forward to the next 10 years.
Hi, Allison. It's great to see you.
Hi, Mike. Great to be here.
Well, it's great to be here together on World Fragile X Day. I'm not sure if most people around the world understand just how closely the Fragile X and autism research communities work together, and in particular, how closely FRAXA and Autism Science Foundation work together.
We've always appreciated the work that we do with you, and maybe you want to kick us off by talking about some of that work. Why don't you lead us off by talking about some of what the Fragile X community has focused on in the last couple of years?
Well, we started off a long time ago, of course. We've been at this for 27 years now, and we began by doing basic research looking at the basic mechanisms of disease in Fragile X. And as our research has progressed and we've been more successful in understanding those basic mechanisms, that has led to a lot more understanding of potential treatment targets for Fragile X. So we've done a lot of translational research aimed at understanding those treatment targets. And more recently, we're doing more and more preclinical research, which is aimed at investigating the effects of specific treatment strategies in the animal models. And we've been fortunate over the years in that a number of those studies have led to clinical trials in Fragile X, and we're really, really excited about those clinical trials now. We've been particularly eager to work with pharmaceutical companies lately because ultimately that's what it's all about. If we want to get treatments to our kids, we actually have to work through pharma companies. And so we have a number of methods that we've developed for working with pharmaceutical companies over the years. You know, at first, it was really hard to get the attention of a single pharma company, and we had to do a lot of what we call de-risking. So we had to do research that would help the pharma company to understand that we knew what the basic mechanisms of disease were and how their particular drug could actually address those needs that Fragile X patients have. And we had to do a lot of research to convince even one company. We don't know the exact amounts, but we do know for some of the initial trials for mGlu5 antagonists, for example, that we had to do millions of dollars worth of de-risking and research into the basic mechanisms and translational and preclinical research before we could convince anybody to do a clinical trial. Now that that precedent has been set, we have a lot more pharma interest in general. But we're also interested in increasing the number of shots on goal, as the pharmaceutical companies say. So we need to get more clinical trials for more different kinds of drug treatment strategies, as well as other strategies, non-drug treatment strategies. And so to do that, we have facilitated the process. We've made the development cycle easier for the companies by providing access to certain kinds of resources like the mouse model and providing that to researchers, like a preclinical drug validation initiative where a smaller company that doesn't have an in-house biology department can send their compound to a lab that already has the mouse colony established, and they can test the drug in their animals. And that makes things a lot easier for smaller companies, and that increases the number of shots on goal.
We're also as just as FRAXA is doing, the Autism Science Foundation is also trying to clear the boulders away from getting our families involved in clinical trials. You know, it's been so disappointing for us that only 20% of families who have a child diagnosed with autism or an adult diagnosed with autism participate in clinical trials. So we just completed a study called the Autism Expect Study, which stands for the experience of people enrolled in clinical trials in autism, to understand, you know, what are some of the reasons that families choose to participate and what are the reasons that they don't choose to participate. And we want to share that information with our clinical sites. So, you know, at first we were concerned that that number was so low because maybe our families had some sort of philosophical reason for not wanting to participate in trials, but that turned out not to be the case. Overwhelmingly, what families cited as the obstacles were very practical and logistical issues that they encountered when participating. For example, they said they had to pay for parking, and this was very off-putting. A lot of times multiple visits to a site are required. And families said it would be much easier if there were weekend appointments, so I didn't have to take my child out of school. They said it would be great if there was babysitting for my younger child with autism, so I could really focus on the questions that were being asked. These are things we can solve. It doesn't require us to change the mindsets of our families. It really just requires the sites to take down the sign in front of the clinic that says parking for clinic director and put up a sign that says parking for clinical trial participant.
Exactly. A company or even an academic lab can know a lot about a disease, and they can know a lot about the drug therapies that they produce, but they don't necessarily know the little idiosyncrasies of our kids that we know so well. And so I think it's important for patient advocacy groups in general to help to guide companies through this process. And I know that's a lot of what we do, that's a lot of what you do, and I think that's incredibly valuable. That's literally priceless for a company, because it can make the difference between success and failure in a clinical trial. For example, the latest clinical trial that we did, we had 30 out of 30 trial subjects complete the trial protocol, which was a pretty long and involved trial protocol. And that was during the whole pandemic. So knowing your patient population is really critical. And that's something I think we can help with. We often think about what is in store for the next 10 years or so. And I think a lot of things are going to change in the next 10 years. We are witnessing the development of incredibly powerful technologies. I think 10 years from now, we will be able to turn more or less any gene on or off at will, and that'll give us the power to manipulate diseases in a way that we've never been able to do it. The implications for Fragile X are obvious. In Fragile X, most people have a mutation that merely turns the gene off. There's not actually anything wrong with the coding region of the FMR1 gene in most Fragile X patients. And so you could, in theory, just reactivate it, turn it on, get normal production of the Fragile X protein, and you'd be good to go. How long that scenario will take, I don't know, but we're very optimistic that we will eventually get to that point.
And I think in the broader autism community, we're hopeful that over the next 10 years, we will be able to increase the number of children and adults for whom we can identify the genetic cause so that we can move those patients into homogeneous groups for clinical trials. I think, that's a lot of the learning we've embraced from the last few years, is that we can't lump everyone with autism into one group for clinical trials and then expect to see a signal. But we are making much better progress with these homogeneous groups using the gene first approach. So I think between that and also understanding that for some patients with autism, it will be a combination of genetic deletions and duplications. And we'll have to understand more about how we can treat those changes pharmaceutically and medically. Because really every patient with autism deserves to have treatments that are based on the underlying biology. We have to move beyond the point of just sort of treating behaviorally and crossing our fingers and hoping that the kids improve. They deserve our best scientific interventions, our best medically based sound biological interventions.
So that's really exciting, and we're really hopeful about the future after that kind of experience.
And I think your optimism and your hope is reflective of the broader autism community, which, as I said earlier, really looks to the Fragile X community for leadership and is so enthusiastic and excited about the progress that's being made in Fragile X, because we know that that will translate to the broader autism community. So thank you so much, Mike, for inviting me. This was such a lovely conversation. And I really want to express my appreciation to everyone who's watching in the pharmaceutical industry. We count on you. We are here to be your partners. Please feel free to contact us. I'll offer up Mike as well as offering up myself as a resource, but please, we're here to be your partner.
We're here. This is what we do. This is my job. And it really has been a great conversation. And really, thank you for being here, Allison. And thank you for doing what you do. You're doing great work out there. And we're looking forward to working together in the future, and we're looking forward to a lot of really great things happening in the field in the next couple of years.
This excerpt came from the Fragile X Syndrome in Pursuit of a Cure webinar that took place on World Fragile X Day 2021. It was hosted by Wuxi AppTech in partnership with FRAXA Research Foundation. Follow the link above or in the description below to view it in its entirety.